Good morning. Good morning. I'm Steve Lentini and the founder of Lord and Lentini and the Acorn Brain. And I've done a lot of work on studying what I call small-minded thinking. And a lot of it I learned by having a near-death experience, but we won't go into that today. What I've learned about leadership was noticing that there's small-minded thinking that leads people to react. And what happens as leaders is that teams respond not feeling safe. I've had a lot of CEOs tell me over the years, no one tells me the truth, Steve. And then I'll respond with, well, where are you in that? How are you creating that? Because we all have accountability for what shows up in life. I just wrote What Reaches You Was Never Meant to Miss You. That's my latest book. And today we're talking about the content in 3 of my books about leadership. And one of them is No BS Coaching. Wake up from the BS you tell yourself. I call myself the No BS coach. I'm not going to allow people to play the victim and have leaders tell me that they're separate from what's going on, what they're creating. We have to look at things differently. We have to see things differently if we're leaders. And then we can teach that to our teams. Because you'll notice when they're reacting, R.J. Spina calls it low frequency energy. David Baer calls it primal energy, primal thinking. And that when we experience those emotions, such as anger, frustration, anxiety, stress, disappointment, sadness, those are all due to the way we're responding to events that show up to help us. That if what reaches us was never meant to miss us, we have to look at life as a gift. That everything that shows up is there to help us learn and grow. And that's very different thinking for this society, because most people believe they're thinking. The hubris of the acorn brain, of the human, and the egoic mind has us wanting to be right and believing that whatever the brain says is true. So after I wrote No BS Coaching, I wrote How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon, Program Your Mind for Success. Written by a dragon because I'm born in the year of the dragon. So I took license with that idea. And the idea is to raise our thinking and our perspective, what's called the 5,000-foot view. And leaders need to do that instead of believing they're thinking and reacting. And I hyphenate reacting and put it in quotes when I write, because it's something we've previously trained the brain with. We have programmed the brain. Here's what neuroscience says today. That unless you start to work on your mind, up until that point, now some neuroscientists say up until the point of age 35. I don't know about that. I think that people can wake up to training their brain and not believing their brain at any age. And so what we need to do is notice where we're reacting, because we're creating that on some level with low frequency primal thinking. Whatever one feeds in the universe grows. Whatever gets fed in the universe or on Earth, if you want to just limit it to here. So the question is, will you believe you're thinking? And are you? And are you reacting often? Because what happens is people don't feel psychologically safe around you. They don't feel like they can tell you the truth. They don't feel like they can speak up, because here's what your energy exudes: my way or the highway. And you might not be that direct about it. I've heard leaders say, hey, Steve, it's who I am. I tell people, get over it. It's who I am. No. It's always who you're choosing to be. After those 2 books I wrote, your brain is brilliant, but it's not always your friend. Why your brain is not always a friend, and simple strategies to change that. One is get a coach who won't allow you to complain and have grievances about the company or teams or the people that report to you. When you catch a complaint or a grievance, it's time to discuss it if it's something you can change. If it's not something you can change, you got to let it go. And that's okay to complain about those things if you want to. I think it's a waste of energy. If you can't change it anyway, why bother complaining? If it's something you can change, the first place you have to look is yourself. Ask the question, how did I create this? What in my energy is showing me this? What am I modeling to other people around me? What is my leadership modeling that others follow? You know, we often tell our children we want them to avoid doing certain things. And it's fascinating how children will say, Mom, did you see? You tell us not to do that. Or Dad, you tell us not to do that. People watch what we do. Words are 7% of the communication pie. 7%. The rest is body language and tone. And so they're paying attention to what we do. It's 93% of the communication pie. Our body, language, and our tone, which display an energy, by the way. And most people believe they're thinking, which is okay. It's human. I'm not making people wrong about it. But I talk about in companies about this small-minded thinker and how to retrain the brain so that you're a limitless thinker. And limitless thinkers have different energy in their companies because they're modeling it. They're not reacting to every little thing that goes wrong because they're looking to find the gift. It's there to wake you up or your team up to change, to learn and grow, to take a new path. When we look at life as a friend, as a gift, and that's what the How to Train Your Mind talks about, right? It talks about the good dragon or the angry dragon. Which one are you going to choose? And No BS coaching is teaching people to wake up to the stories they tell themselves. Because if you gather a story about one of your employees, your brain will gather evidence to prove it's true. That's what happens. Dr. James Doty, in his book Mind Magic, writes about that. And he boils it down to something very simple to comprehend and understand. He said, think of the subconscious this way. 50% of the subconscious is running all the things you don't have to think about. Growing your nails, breathing, pumping blood, growing hair for some of us. Apparently my subconscious forgot how to do that. The other 50% of the subconscious, he said, think of it this way, a file system and a bloodhound. And whatever you put in the file system, the bloodhound is going to look for evidence of, despite any evidence of the contrary. That's confirmation bias. And leaders need to check in with themselves. How are they approaching things? Are they mostly living as what my coach used to call as a reaction? Or are they learning to respond and look at life as a gift and find a gift in what really bothers you? Because that's what I discovered in my near-death experience, that this little thinker didn't go with me. I was one with everything and nothing. 1 second in intensive care with 2 friends at the end of my bed, and the next second, one with everything and nothing. One with the infinite. And this little judger and talker that decides good or bad about things, it wasn't there. So life gave me that as a gift and my work to do. And that's what I've been doing ever since, is helping people elevate from believing their thinking to believing their mind, which Rainer Maria Rilke called his mind the little hooligan. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff called it the machine. And they would ask similar questions. And by the way, you can go back to BC times where people were questioning their brain. Marcus Aurelius, Cicero, many others, Lao Tzu. They didn't believe their thinking. And they urged people in their writings to question their thinking. Socrates talked about questioning. So it's been around for thousands of years, but we haven't learned much about it. And leaders who believe their brain and are living as a reaction instead of a response are setting off what Dr. James Doty calls the bloodhound. They put something in their file system. They tell themselves a story about their team, the company, the board, and they go looking for evidence to prove it's true. And we have to stop the bloodhound by consciously noticing that's the place that we're in. We have to catch it. And it's okay. It's human. Another great book to write about to learn about what triggers you or activates you is Red Hawk wrote a book called Self-Observation. Marshall Goldsmith wrote the book called Triggers. Many different experts talk about it. Dr. Daniel Amen talks about naming the brain and learning to reprogram the mind. He calls his brain Little Hermie. He named it after a rambunctious, troublesome pet raccoon he had as a teenager. So that's what he's calling that chatter that goes on in his mind. Troublesome. Troublesome. It's up to you. As a leader, if you start questioning your mind and stop your reactions and learn to respond differently, you'll create psychological safety for your teams to speak up and tell you the truth. I used to attend a manager's meeting as a consultant at a company that was having difficulty. Their sales had gone down dramatically. And the CEO asked me to come in. When I attended the COO's meetings, that person was talking about managers that weren't in the room, or even managers that were in the room, making fun of them. There was no psychological safety in the company. And when I went to the CEO to discuss it, he didn't want to change it because that COO was protecting him from all the mess he didn't want to deal with. He didn't want to deal with it. So he let her deal with it whatever way she wanted. And years later, it was discovered that she was mostly the problem, including doing things that were not of integrity in the company, and lost her job. But it took a lot of years, and people were telling him, but he didn't listen. So leaders have to be willing to check their own thinking, and often CEOs insulate themselves. This particular CEO called this COO his attack dog. That's not healthy. It didn't help the company. So that's up to you as a leader. Are you going to listen to your brain? Are you going to listen to the brain that's brilliant, but it's not always your friend? Are you going to listen to the BS stories that you tell yourself? Are you going to wake up to them and learn to reprogram your mind, how to train your mind? So I have programs that go along with all of these, and I talk about it. And you can find many other people to do it. I'm not selling anything here. If it sounds like a fit, reach out to me. You got questions, reach out to me. I'm glad to help. And here's how you can reach me. Steve at stevelentini.com. Just add a Steve over here. Steve at stevelentini.com. I'm glad to help. It's what I do. All right. Next Friday, I'll be doing the same thing. And the only time I take off is when I go on vacation. And maybe I'll pre-record that. So every Friday, 10 o'clock, episodes on leadership and ideas to reprogram the mind, what I call the Acorn Brain, the small-minded thinker. It resides in the amygdala. And fMRI research, by the way, by people like Shirzad Chamine and Stanford University and many other neuroscientists have found that the mostly negative thinkers, their thinking lights up on the right side of the neocortex, the frontal part of the brain. And when they give them exercises to reprogram the mind to be more responsive, more high frequency, more positive, they find new neural pathways opening on the left side, the opposite side of where the negative is stored. like stroke victims, that the neuroplasticity of the brain can be changed by people consciously working on their minds. So when I hear leaders say, well, it's who I am, get over it, it's who they're choosing to be. They're defaulting to what the brain remembers, like driving. You first learned to drive, you were nervous. If you first learned anything new, you were nervous and wanted to learn it and get a hold of it and get better at it. At some point in time, the subconscious takes over. It learns it. What most people don't realize, especially leaders, is you have a response over the years to every kind of person and every event in your life, an emotional response, and the brain remembers those responses. So can you go left instead of right if you're always taking a right? Change your path, not just driving to work, but start to change your path in everything you automatically respond to. It could be a good practice to change your route to work or change some of your other automatic habits. Every once in a while, I'm lefty. I try writing with my right hand. It gets better. It's very uncomfortable. I want to purposely change things to make myself uncomfortable because the brain loves comfort and it remembers all your past responses, emotional responses, like driving. And you'll automatically respond unless you reprogram your mind to certain people and certain events because your brain has decided, oh, you didn't like this kind of person. All right, we don't like these kind of people. Hey, you get angry every time this happens, or you get sad, or you're disappointed when people do this or that. That's the place to begin questioning and reprogramming the mind. It's up to you. You can do it. Again, I'm glad to help. No BS coaching. I've got other books that I've also shown on this Leadership Live. No BS coaching is what this is based on. Wake up from the BS you tell yourself, because that means your brain is running you. And you can email me, Steve at a Steve here, steve@stevelentini.com. You can email me. I'm glad to help. And there's many other people doing this work, neuroscientists. I've just given you a lot of resources. Self-Observation by Red Hawk, Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith, Mind Magic by Dr. James Doty, Dr. Daniel Amen's work, Shirzad Shamin's work, David Baer's work, R.J. Spina's work. They're all talking about different ways to reprogram the mind, which will make you a much better leader and get you the results that you are responsible for. You are. So begin to work on changing. That's what I'm here to do. I love helping people reprogram their mind, and I'm always working on reprogramming my own mind. It's a journey, by the way. I have not found the way to 100% do it. I'm still working every day on things that I notice my brain wants me to react to. Reacting is something you previously trained your brain with. But you got to prove it to yourself. Don't take my word for it. You can change many things about your leadership style if you haven't already decided that you're perfect. Check in on that. All right, Steve at Steve Lentini. I showed you how to do it. You can email me, Steve at Steve Lentini. Just add a Steve over here, steve@stevelentini.com. And look for next week's episode, right, on leadership. Even you can hear my dog barking. He agrees. Thank you.